Hey everyone, welcome to another ranking, and here is my ranking of all 27 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Yes, everyone has been waiting and waiting and waiting for me to do an updated ranking of the MCU, and why not do it now? Spider-Man No Way Home just came out, and I have not done a review, and I'm not going to do a full review of it because I'm just doing other videos, and just my consensus is with the majority. So I'll try to go in more detail about the movie and what I think about it, of the movie, sorry, in this ranking. So, in this ranking is not just a ranking of the MCU, but it's also my little review of Spider-Man No Way Home. And you'll see where I have it in the rankings. I think a lot of people will be very pleased at where I put it. So let's get to it. Here's my personal opinion. Can't stress that enough because people are probably not going to like my ranking. People are going to disagree so much, but that's the beauty of taste and beauty of being subjective. It's all opinion. So let's get to this shit. Coming at number 27 is Captain Marvel. This movie is trash. It is not good. Brie Larson is a terrible Carol Danvers. Carol Danvers is a terrible character anyways, even in the comics. Brie Larson's just awful. She is not charismatic or likable or enjoyable to watch. Samuel L. Jackson tries to do what he can, but everyone in this movie just sucks. The villain sucks, and that betting is terrible. Everyone is terrible. The visuals, the CGI look cartoony. The action is not very great. The soundtrack is laughably cheesy. I hated everything about this movie, and I never thought a movie could be worse than Iron Man 2, but this one seemed to do it. Speaking of that, number 26 is Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2 is not a very good movie. I love Iron Man. I love Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. is the only thing that makes this movie tolerable. But the movie is boring, uninteresting, has shitty villains, shitty characters. It does things with Tony Stark's character I don't like. He comes off super unlikable in this movie. Just every single direction they go through in this movie just isn't good. After the first Iron Man, this movie had a lot to live up to, and it failed completely. So yeah. Number 25 is Eternals. This year's Eternals. This year, I consider a very poor year for the Marvel films. One really great one, and the rest just or bad. This one's bad. Eternals has stock load of characters that you don't give a shit about by talented people who didn't really put their heart and soul into it. Really uninteresting story. It tried to put these political messages and stuff, and it's directed by Chloe Zhao, and I think she's just no very director anyways, and I don't know, it's all scale and no substance, and definitely one of the worst Marvel films out there. Alright, coming in number 24 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp is a movie I actually didn't mind watching the first time, but watching it a second time, it's a struggle to get through. It's like a real struggle to get through this movie. It's not funny, and it tries to be super funny. It's not as creative as its predecessor. It doesn't have a lot to say, and it has this story that I don't care about. It tries to be like a very funny, slapsticky comedy. The whole ending feels like the climax to What's Up, Doc. It tries to be something funny and clever and unique, but it fails. I don't like the villain. I know they try to make her very sympathetic. I just don't care. Paul Rudd is a very charming actor, and he gives a good performance. He's one of my favorites. It's him and Michael Douglas. Evangeline Lilly was good in the first one. Didn't like her in this one. I don't know, just something about this movie is just not very watchable or enjoyable for me, so it's definitely one of the weaker ones. Number 23 is Thor: The Dark World. Most people's least favorites for good reason. It is just so generic and so forgettable. Tom Hiddleston makes the movie pretty enjoyable, but you gotta suffer through your Natalie Portmans and Stellan Skarsgårds and Kat Dennings. It's sufferable. It's got the most probably forgettable villain ever, and there's nothing enjoyable about the film. It is just the definition of this bland, generic action sci-fi film. So yeah. Thor: The Dark World, not very good. Number 22 is Black Widow. That came out this year. Another just so generic, bland film. Florence Pugh's good. Scarlett Johansson tries her best. It's not interesting. I hated David Harbour. I hated what they did with Taskmaster. I been waiting for a story about Natasha Romanoff in the Black Widow story for so long. And then this is what they give us. Number 21 is The Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk is not a bad movie. I think Edward Norton is a decent Hulk. And I like all the stuff in the first act of this movie. I think that's really interesting. I like how they tie it in with Iron Man. That's really cool. There are some pretty cool action scenes in this movie. But Abomination's a boring villain. I didn't like Liv Tyler. And there's a lot of moments that just drag for me. But I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just kind of a okay movie. So, yeah. Number 20 is Doctor Strange. Another one that's, it's okay. It's definitely a movie, I just don't ever feel like watching again. I saw it twice in theaters and I never saw it again. I like Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange. I even enjoy Rachel McAdams as a love interest. She's better than a Jane Foster. But again, it has that generic villain and just generic side characters, a generic origin story. It does have cool, trippy visuals. It has a good score. And there is a lot of entertaining qualities in it. It just doesn't have that watchability factor. And it just comes off as just an okay movie. So, yeah. Number 19 is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Another one that everyone praised this year. And I just didn't see it. Visuals, it's got cool stuff. There is some pretty cool action sequences. And it has a great villain. The villain's great. However, the main character, Simu Lee, is just, Shang-Chi is not an interesting character in this movie. I just didn't give a rat's ass about him. And Awkwafina, I'm really getting just annoyed of her in some movies. Like, I like her in Crazy Rich Asians. She's fine in Ride the Last Dragon, but just I can take her or leave for comedy. She's more of a good dramatic actor. Like, watch her in The Farewell. She's fantastic in that movie. Like, I think she just should stick with more dramatic roles. Like, her comedy is getting obnoxious, and it is super obnoxious in this movie. She is just ungodly unfunny and so annoying in this movie. And there's like a whole thing at the ending when she becomes like this amazing archer out of nowhere. It's really stupid. There's just a lot of things for this movie. It just doesn't work for me. The hand-to-hand combat fight sequences, the martial arts is really cool, and I'm a sucker for martial arts movies, and the martial arts that are in this movie is great. And when they talk about Shang-Chi's dad and his sister, all that's very captivating stuff. If the whole movie was just about his dad, that would have been a much better movie, but it has such bland and unentertaining lead characters and forced comedy because you gotta make a fucking Marvel movie. All the Marvelisms ruin this movie. They got put overblown of CGI and dragons and bullshit comedy where this could have just been a really cool, enjoyable martial arts film, but the Marvelisms really drag this movie down for me, so it just turns out to be an okay movie. Number 18 is the first Thor, directed by Kenneth Branagh. Great ideas in it. I love the opening and the story of Asgard and the war with them in Jotunheim. There's great stuff. I liked Loki and Thor in this movie. Odin's cool too. All the stuff with Asgard is great, but then when he goes to Earth, it just becomes like a generic fish out of water story, which is saved by Chris Hemsworth because he's great, he's funny, he's enjoyable. All the good comedy comes from him, but then you gotta suffer through these horrible human characters. Stellan Skarsgård, Kat Dennings, and Natalie Portman are just awful characters. I hate spending any time with them. They're just irritating. There's not really much of a climax to the movie either. I do love the world. I do love the characters of Asgard, and all that's great, but the human stuff dragged the movie down. But the movie's fine. Number 17 is Spider-Man Homecoming, a film I loved, but the more and more I kept watching, the more and more overrated it got. I love Tom Holland as a Spider-Man. I think he's a good Spider-Man. He's no Tobey Maguire, or he's no, what's his name? Shameik Moore for Miles Morales. He's not that level of great, but he's still good in this movie. I liked Iron Man, and I liked the Vulture. Michael Keaton is all good stuff. But there's just a lot of... Again, the comedy doesn't work for me. There's a lot of moments that just drag. There's a lot of predictability, except for the Vulture twist with this girl in high school. That was pretty good. I thought his friend Ned and MJ were just kind of characters. I'm not on board with this Aunt May in this movie either. Even the Aunt May in all the movies. I like Marissa Tomei as an actress, but I just don't think she's that good of an Aunt May. There's a lot of like it's basically a John Hughes movie, but a superhero John Hughes movie, and honestly, it works for some, but doesn't for others. Like you get the cliched bully, the cliched nerdy friend, you get the cliched love interest. There's a lot of cliches in this movie. Uh, the stuff it does really good, but they have a lot of these predictable and cliched moments that kind of just ruin it for me. But it's a fine movie. I don't hate it at all. I think it's good, but it's not amazing. Number 16 is the first Ant-Man. This is when we're getting to the good stuff. I like Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man. I think it's good. I like that it's a heist movie. All that's good stuff. Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Hank Pym, Michael Douglas, all great. I love the story. I love the technology of this suit and how he can shrink down and how they do the shrinking and all that is really cool, really creative. I love that they put it in, mix it with the MCU, and you get to see like the Falcon in this movie. All good stuff. I think Michael Pena is annoying, and I think Corey Stoll's villain is generic. And again, they kind of, put the movie down a little bit, but the movie still works. It's a good heist film. I love that it's a smaller scaled Marvel film and not like this big epic one. I enjoyed it. I think Ant-Man's a good movie. Number 15 is Avengers Age of Ultron. A lot of good stuff in this movie. A lot of stuff. This is what introduced us to Wanda and her brother, Pedro. They're okay. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are okay. Ultron is a decent villain, but it could have been done better. However, the Avengers are great. They all work great off each other. They're all good. The stuff they do with Black Widow is great. The stuff they do with the Hulk is good. Even with Iron Man and why he wants to create Ultron. All that's good stuff. It's a really good movie with great music, great score, great action sequences, and really powerful moments with certain characters. But the little nitpicks like the bad villains and side characters, the new characters they bring, aren't as great, but it's still a good movie. It's still good. It's still good. Number 14 is Iron Man 3. Underrated Christmas movie. Really good stuff. Again, another, has a bad villain, and I know what they did with the Mandarin in this. People hate it, and I get it. I understand, but it's a Shane Black movie, so it's a Christmas movie. It's funny. This is actually a Marvel movie that is very funny, and I love it's a story about Tony Stark with his PTSD and what he saw during the Avengers. All that is great stuff. Really good stuff. Downey Jr. is on his A game in this one. He's great. His relationship with this kid is very funny. Stuff with Don Cheadle is a little eh. And again, the villain kind of sucks, but Downey Jr. and his whole adventure with his PTSD during the Christmas season, all that I love. I love the simplistic story, and I love Downey Jr. so much. And this movie actually is legit funny. So that gets a lot of thumbs up for me. I think it's a good movie. I'm a sucker for Shane Black, so I like Iron Man 3. I can see why people don't like it, but I enjoy it. Number 13 is Captain America, the First Avenger. Really great film. Joe Johnston, great director. I love Joe Johnston as a director. I think he's super underappreciated, but people are more and more now liking him. I like what he did with this movie. I like the origin story of Steve Rogers. I like Red Skull as a villain. Hugo Weaving does a great job. I love Tommy Lee Jones. I love Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter. All of them are really good. I love the World War II setting and this whole story about Captain America, and they use him as a symbol through the war. Everything they do actually in this movie works for me. It's not like a perfect movie, but a origin story for Captain America, it's damn good. It's really damn good. Number 12 is Spider-Man Far From Home, a huge step up from Homecoming. Again, it does things that I'm still not fully on board with the MJ and Ned and Aunt May. Those were always issues, but they put Happy in this movie more. He's great as this mentor to Peter. Tom Holland steps up his acting better in this one. I like Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. I think it's really good. I hate what they do with Nick Fury. I think that's so stupid, but the action is really creative. The visuals are really good. And as Homecoming, it didn't really make me laugh as much. This one was much funnier, this comedy. And I like some of the issues Peter has to go through in this movie. And I just thought it stepped its game up a lot more. And I actually think Far From Home is a very good movie. And it's a good Spider-Man movie. It's really good. Um, what are number 11, Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, a lot of people say it's the funniest MCU. Yeah, it's yeah, it's funny. It's very funny. Taika Waititi is a very funny guy, very funny filmmaker. It's a funny movie. Yeah, I don't like Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie. That's about it. She's the only thing I don't like about this movie. I love Thor, Loki. I like Hela, Kate Blanchett. She's great. I love Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster. He's awesome. This movie is just. They throw a lot of jokes at you in this film, and it's funny. Korg, one of the best side characters ever. Great action, great visuals. It's just non-stop fun for like 2 hours. So what's not to love about that? Thor Ragnarok. Number 10, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Probably the most gasping one. A lot of people put this in like the lower tier Marvel films. Not me. Love Guardians 2. It's one of my favorites. I think this is the funniest Marvel film. I think it's hilarious. I love that this movie is a hangout movie. It's a hangout movie. That's great. I love Kurt Russell in this movie. I love the things Rocket has to go through. I love Stallone. I love that they made a character like Yondu, who I didn't like from the first movie, and I love him. And what they do with him in this movie is great. I think Drax is hilarious in this movie. I love what Star-Lord, what he has to go through in this film. Everything they do in Guardians 2, I love. And I love how they build up to Adam Warlock for the next one. I really enjoy Guardians 2. I know people really hate this movie. I fucking love it. I always defend it, and I will still to this day defend Guardians 2. It's one of the bests. Number 9 is Black Panther. Despite its overly preachy political message, I think the movie is still a very good film. I think Chadwick Boseman is a great Black Panther, and I think Michael B. Jordan as Eric Killmonger is fantastic. I think it's visually really good until the third act. I think it has one of the best car chase sequences. I love Martin Freeman in this movie and Andy Serkis as well. I love the whole first act and how they established the Black Panther world of Wakanda. I think the movie works as a Marvel film. I think it is a very good film. I don't think it is a epic masterpiece, and I think people overhype it, but it is still a damn good movie and one of the better Marvel films. 100%. Number 8 is the first Iron Man. First Iron Man's kick-ass, man. Like Downey Jr., fantastic Tony Stark. This is one of the best origin stories, and how this like selfish billionaire who creates weapons for bad people in the world just changes just because he got captive and saw the weapons he created were used for evil. I love his arc in this movie. I love his relationships with like Happy and with Pepper and Rhodey. I actually like Terrence Howard's Rhodey more than Don Cheadle's. That's an unpopular opinion, but I like Terrence Howard a lot in this movie. I wish he continued. I know there was some beef going on, but I liked his Rhodey a lot more than Don Cheadle's. But I loved Iron Man. I think it's a great story. I like Jeff Bridges as Obadiah. I just love everything about Iron Man. I think it's a great movie. It's funny too, and it's got great action, and it introduces us to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a flawed but great franchise. Number 7 is the first Avengers movie. Great. I've talked a lot about this movie, so it's the first movie to deliver the goods. The first Iron Man movie. Nick Fury showed up and said, "Hey, I'm going to talk about the Avengers Initiative." They delivered. Joss Whedon did a great job. Brought all the characters together. Loki's a villain. Delivered the goods. That's all I gotta say. Delivered. Number 6, Spider-Man No Way Home. This is the one everyone wants to know about. Spider-Man No Way Home. It's a great fucking movie. It'll probably be in my top 10 best of the year. Tom Holland's great. I actually gave a shit about MJ in this movie. Zendaya actually gives you a good performance. Still not on board with his buddy Ned. I just don't think he's that funny or interesting, but I actually liked MJ. I still don't like Aunt May, but loved Happy. I think he should have been in it more. I love that they brought in the characters that we all know are in the movie, but Andrew Garfield and Tom Maguire in the movie, and they're amazing in this film. The villains are all great, especially Green Goblin and Dr. Octavius. They're great. Jamie Foxx, they make him an actually good villain, unlike the disaster we saw him in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. They give Andrew Garfield a lot of good stuff in this movie as well. They really redeem his Spider-Man, his Peter Parker. Especially the scene where he saves MJ. It's probably my favorite moment in the movie. Great action. And the comedy gets a little overbearing, but it still works. And the movie is damn good. And it's just, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel happy when you watch this movie. And instantly when I watched it, I did want to watch it again a second time. So it's a damn great film. And it's one of the best Marvel films out there. So good job, No Way Home. Number 5, Avengers Infinity War. Infinity War was just an epic. Like, that's the best way to describe this Marvel film. It is the most epic Marvel film out of all of them. Brought all these worlds, all these films together. Every one of them together. And it was just incredible. Just incredible to watch. And that ending, holy fucking shit. Like, for a whole year, we didn't know what was going to happen. Well, we obviously knew it was going to happen. But damn, what a fucking ending. Just, it's amazing. It's epic. Infinity War. Number 4, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This was always one of my favorites. I think anytime the Russo brothers are directing a Marvel film, it's like top tier right there. I loved Bucky Barnes, Sebastian Stan's Winter Soldier. I love Robert Redford. Steve Rogers, Chris Evans is great. The action is probably some of the best action in any Marvel film is Winter Soldier and another one. Visuals are fantastic. The score is one of my favorite scores as well. Just everything about Winter Soldier is just incredible. 10 out of 10, amazing film. Number 3 is first Guardians of the Galaxy. This, to me, is the most fun. The most fun Marvel film. Out of all of them, the most feel-good, the most fun is Guardians of the Galaxy. First Guardians of the Galaxy. I love it for Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just... they do everything right. It's a great space opera. It's like Star Wars meets Firefly. It's so great. It's so enjoyable. It's got a great soundtrack. I love all these characters. It did it perfectly. That's all I gotta say. Number 2, Captain America: Civil War. This was always my favorite Marvel film when it came out. I loved Civil War. This probably is some of the best conflict and probably the best storytelling. And I love that it's this conflict within the group. And Iron Man and Captain America are on different sides. And what they stand for and what they stand against. It is so good. It's emotional. It's damaging. It's dramatic. It's deep. It's really well written. Very well written movie. The action is incredible. And I just loved everything they did in this movie. This, to me, was always like a perfect Marvel film. But it's no number 1. Number 1 is Endgame. Endgame is my favorite Marvel film. I think this should have been the climax. I think it should have just ended right here. I think it's a perfect conclusion to the story of the Marvel films. But I understand they wanted to, keep going for some reason. But great movie. I love that they did this time travel to undo everything Thanos did after the snap. I've talked about this. Everyone knows Endgame. It's amazing. It's my favorite. So yeah, that was my kind of quick, not really quick, my ranking of all 27 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. So in the comment section, please tell me what is your ranking of all the Marvel films and your guys' opinion. Comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and join the dark side.